Hello! Today's recipe is dill pickles in our series on bottling, pickling, or canning as some people call it. And so today we're going to be making dill pickles. So I've just come back from the market and I've gotten some pickling cucumbers, and so that's what we're going to start with, and then in the next stage I'll let you know what we're going to need for that as well. So in the meantime, first you should start with just rinsing off the actual cucumbers. They've been pre-washed, but I always like to make sure there's no soil or anything left on them. So what you're going to do, you're just going to take that, and then you're going to rinse them off, and then you're going to drain that, put it in cold water in the fridge, preferably overnight, for at least for a few hours, and then we'll come back and we'll make the pickles. They're very, very simple. It's a recipe that was given to me by my friend Marlene, and so she's been making them for years and she stands by it, and so these are very delicious pickles. So what you're going to need is some dill weed and or actually the flour, and some garlic as well, and of course some vinegar. So I'll explain that in a step-by-step process. And now we're ready for step 2 in our dill garlic pickles. And so so far what you've seen, we've prepared the actual cucumbers. We've left them overnight in the fridge in cold water, and so now it's time to make the brine and put them in the bottles. So what you're going to need for this next step, first of all, you're going to take your cucumbers and drain the water off. You're going to need 4 cups of water. Get a fairly large pot. 4 cups of water, which I've already put in, and 2 cups of vinegar. Now it's pickling vinegar that you're going to need. So, I'm using Allen's, but there are other kinds of pickling vinegar that you can use as well. So you're also going to have on hand a 1/4 cup of pickling salt. So you're going to add that together, and you're going to put them on the stove and bring them to a boil for 5 minutes. And then in the meantime, what you're going to do is prepare your garlic cloves, and you've probably noticed there's somewhat of a plant hanging from in front of me. So that's dill. Normally you probably see dill when it's in its dark green form, but at the end of the season it comes to a head and it comes to a flower, and the stalks start to get woody. That means it's ready to seed, and so that's the part that we put in the bottles with the pickles. And so so prepare all that. So put it on the stove, and in the meantime, what you can do is prepare your bottles. What I like to do, I like to sterilize my bottles, and I put them in the dishwasher on the quick cycle, and then I put my lids into some boiling water just to make sure, because you can never be certain. You want to make sure that your jars are sealed correctly, because you don't want any botulism. Granted, there is a great content of vinegar here, but you can never take any chances. So put this on the stove, prepare your bottles, and then we'll be back for the next step, which we'll put them in the bottles. So just before we go any further, one of the things, many of you, if you do a lot of pickling like I do, canning, what have you, you might have a lot of jars at home, and you might have also kept the rings as well. One of the things that I don't tend to recycle are the actual lids themselves. I like to take new lids each year when I make my pickles, and so that way you can be sure that they're going to be sealed. On each of the actual boxes, it says they're good to seal for about 12 to 18 months. Most of my store of pickles, beets, what have you, are gone before 12 to 18 months, so I've never really tried to be on that. Probably they'll last a little longer as well. But out of an abundance of caution, some people also put their pickles or whatever they're canning into a water bath after they put them into the bottles, just to make sure to boil them, make sure that they're sealed correctly and there's no botulism. So one thing also you should check out before you start any project of canning is to make sure you can find these lids. The last couple of years during the pandemic, while you could sometimes buy the bottles or the rings, it was often hard just to find the lids. Most of us don't need new bottles, we don't need the rings, but we do need lids. And so I had to go to 4 different places before I finally found them this particular summer. So check that out before you start your pickling project. So in front of me we have our dill, which I'm going to start by, in each of the bottles I'm going to put a bit of dill at the bottom. I'm going to put a clove of garlic, and then I'm going to start filling them. Now these are all different sizes. My bottles are only the 500 milliliters, the pint bottles. Some people, when they're doing dill pickles, if they like to use the longer, thicker pickles, they use the larger jars. So my actual pickles are rather short, and so we're going to fill them, and then we're going to add the brine on top. So let's start. So I'm going to start by cutting a piece of the dill off. Now this is not the prettiest part of the dill. We often think of dill with the part we get during the summertime that we actually quite like, and so I'm going to put some dill at the bottom. Going to add a garlic clove, and then I'm just going to start filling them ever so gently, and hopefully they're all small enough that they're going to fit in perfectly and not go beyond my cover. And so you have to, this is a bit of a maneuvering, because you have to make sure that they're not too crowded in there as well. So I think that's all we're going to be able to fit here. I'm going to put another clove of garlic and a little more of the dill on top. And then we're just going to, this is the most practical thing, we're going to use this to actually pour the brine in, and then that way we don't have any mess on the rim of our jar, because sometimes if you have mess in the rim of your jar, it's going to keep the jars from sealing properly. So put the brine right to the top. Leave about a centimeter or so of space, what we call head space at the top, and then put your lid on. This little practical magnet is the most wonderful thing, because I've put my covers in hot water, so I wanted to activate that little sticking mechanism here. And so basically this is all you have to do. So put the rims on, and then here you are. So here's your dill pickles. You have some dill, you have the pickles, you have the garlic, and water, salt, and vinegar marinade. So these are your dill pickles. So you're going to put them away probably for about 6 weeks before you sample them, to let all the flavors come together. So I'm just going to fill the rest of my jars, and then we'll be back just for some parting comments. And so we're back for the final wrap up for our dill and garlic pickles. So here I yielded, from about 3 pounds of cucumbers, I yielded 7 jars, 500 milliliter pint jars. And so some people like to use the larger ones, especially if you have longer cucumbers as well. So depends on the size of the cucumbers. You might want to select the jar as well, and to make sure you have the proper lids to go on them as well. So let's just recap what we did. So firstly, we got the cucumbers, we put them to wash because we want to get all the dirt off them, even though I think most farm vegetables, when they go to market, are actually already pre-washed. These come from a local farmer's market. And then I put them in the fridge in cold water overnight, drained them this morning. And then when I took them out, I prepared my brine. My brine was made of 4 cups of water, 2 cups of pickling vinegar, and 1/4 cup of pickling salt. So I brought that to a boil. And in the meantime, I put my jars in the dishwasher to sterilize them, and my lids into a pot of boiling water. And so I prepared that. And then when I got to put them in, once it was boiled for about 5 minutes, I took my little funnel, put them on top, packed some fresh dill in them and some garlic. My friend likes to use Italian garlic in hers. I'm not entirely sure if I know the variety of garlic that I got. Came from the farmer's market as well. But anyway, I put 2 cloves of garlic, so a clove on the bottom with a bit of dill. Pack in your cucumbers, another clove of garlic towards the top, and some more dill. Add the brine all the way up to the top, and then put your lid on. And you should always use new lids when you're pickling as well. So, and then tighten the cover, and throughout the day, the covers will probably pop as they stick to the top, and so get out all the air. So if you hear this, for example, this one is not sealed yet. So if you hear that noise, that means it's not sealed, and that you should put them in the fridge. If it may seal eventually today, but if it doesn't, put it in the fridge. Don't leave it in a cold storage. This one is almost sealed. This one is sealed. See, you don't hear the popping sound. This one just popped actually as I was doing it. So and so you hear that popping sound when they are sealing. So it takes a while sometimes for them to seal. They don't seal automatically. And so you're going to want to test them in a couple of days. If they still haven't sealed, keep those ones in the fridge and eat them the first within the next 3 or so months. The other ones you can put in cold storage under your stairs or somewhere that's cool, in a cellar, and eat them within the next year, 18 months. So that's our episode on making dill pickles. You might also want to look at the episode that I did on making bread and butter pickles, and I'm going to be making beets and some other things as well. So check out the rest of the videos. It's been a pleasure being your host. I hope the video went okay. As I said in an earlier one that I did yesterday, this is my first attempt, and so you might have noticed I've taken my glasses off for some reason. I am not, the reflection of the light seems to reflect onto my glasses. I'm not entirely sure how to get rid of that. So I'm working on all of that, trying to improve the sound, the video quality, and of course the lighting. So bear with me. Any hints, any suggestions you can give me are always most welcome. Thank you.